Okay, so I think that's quite a lot of people in the room just now, so we might have a few more joining us as we go forward. I think we'll just kick off just now. So yeah, I suppose firstly, the kind of rationale behind the webinar. We have been looking far more at the cost of living, the cost of doing business, and we also realise that this is a cross-sectoral thing as well, so it's not just about social enterprises, it's certainly about charities and voluntary groups and small businesses as well, so it's a real cross-sector issue here. So we thought energy costs is quite a logical way to start this kind of cost of living, cost of doing business series, hopefully series anyway. And we were delighted to do this in partnership with FSB Scotland and SCVO as well, just to kind of really get that kind of coherent cross-sectoral approach. I won't talk for any longer just now because I think we've got quite a lot to get through. It's a very practical webinar today, very much about solutions, being very solutions focused to this kind of issue, an issue which is certainly affecting a lot of people at the moment. Individuals, households, as well as businesses. So I will hand over just now to Kasia Nathan from Business Energy Scotland.
Thank you very much, Duncan. Thank you for having me. And yeah, just share my screen to start. My name is Kasia Nathan, and I represent Business Energy Scotland programme. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit more about the programme, and as we've just gone through a transition, and talk about a little about practical steps you can take to reduce your energy use from low cost to investment cost, and also some funding information for you too. Okay, so Business Energy Scotland, we are funded by Scottish Government and provide free and impartial support for small and medium-sized businesses, social enterprises, charities, community groups as well. We're just very keen to help identify savings in sort of energy, carbon and money savings as well, and also implement those within businesses and organizations. And you previously might have heard of us as Energy Efficiency Business Support Service. Before that, it was Resource Efficient Scotland. So we've seen quite a few transitions, but we still here, sort of growing in strength, I think. What we've delivered during previous support under Energy Efficiency Business, we find usually typically about 24% savings per report that we do for businesses. We identify a lot of savings, with over 20 million pounds, sorry, 200 million pounds worth of savings, and 1.1 million tons of carbon savings as well, which is very, very good. And if you think about it, 70% of the customers that we engage with already taken the action after receiving our advice. That is very, very good as well. And throughout the years, we found, of course, that the businesses and organizations, especially social enterprises, community groups, and charities, come across a lot of barriers on their journey to become more energy efficient, and now even more so on the way to net zero. So whether it's lack of time or need for technical expertise, whether they need to convince the management there's a need for action, or hopefully less so now with the energy prices really focusing our view on things connected to energy efficiency and renewable energy as well. And most of all, there's still the very, very big and significant barriers, lack of finance. So we're hoping to eradicate that by providing technical on-site support for some organizations as well. Advice from local energy advisors like myself. So I'm based around Aberdeen. We've got advisors in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Ayr, and Inverness as well. So we quite spread out, make sure there's that local knowledge on hand as well. And What I want to talk to you today is take you through simple things that I know for small organizations sometimes it's quite difficult to find cost sort of funding and time to progress with the high investment installations and improvements. However, there's on your way, there's a lot of little things that you can do that got no cost associated to it, or need just a little bit of time from your staff, or we're going to talk about low cost measures and then higher investment as well. But first and foremost, I think encouraging right from start, encouraging energy saving behavior, whether it's amongst your staff, your visitors, your clients, is quite important. So we prepared a lot of resources you can access on our website. We would like you to make sure that the resource efficiency is part of your training package. We've got a ready-made resource efficiency at work training package on our website that includes ready-made presentation quizzes and certificates, so on and so forth. It can be used for initial training and then for sort of annual reminders. Important things, very, very common sense, switch off everything that's not in use. So starting from your lights, appliances, heating, whenever it's not in use, please switch it off. And so much energy is wasted by colleagues leaving equipment on or lights unnecessarily. That's very, very quick fix. So to help you encourage that kind of behavior, we've got planned a switch off campaign materials on the website as well. Also going a step further, it's really important that you've got people behind your projects. So we would encourage you to set up a green team. One of the simplest way to create change in your business is to encourage dedicated group of colleagues to lead that fight for energy efficiency. So even to support that even more, you can take advantage of the Green Champion trainings that we provide. That's a free online training and CPD certified. So it's extra credit points on your CV or your employee's CV as well. And they can undertake regular checks on energy waste or water issues in their department or in an organization to kind of bring up any issues and any ideas they might have. So that's quite important. Moving from there, more single, I mean, the essential first stage in any bid for saving energy and moving on with your energy and green projects is knowing your baseline. So it's time to pull out your bills if you haven't already. Make sure that you monitor your energy use. Note your meter readings. Make sure that the bills are based on actual meter readings rather than the estimate from your supplier. And if you don't already have monitoring system, we also have useful measuring and monitoring spreadsheets that you can they're ready made and you can use those. It's a skill every organization should have, and you can measure your energy use against the KPIs you can set yourself as well. We would recommend after that review your energy contract if you haven't already. And once you know your annual energy use, it puts you in a better position to renegotiate your energy contract. We would recommend to contact minimum 3 suppliers and see what tariffs and terms and conditions they can offer you. Consider tariffs with the large or 100% renewable energy mix as well. And also carry out an energy audit. So a quick site walk around around your site can often reveal lots of energy saving opportunities. And our free guide on our website again has everything you need to know to conduct a full energy audit of your business. It's a comprehensive kind of checklist that will guide you through your site and prompt with any areas to consider and think about. And obviously that can be used in your projects as well. And then we would, oh, sorry. Then we would encourage you to make the most of what you've got. So use with the, for example, with lighting, make sure that you're making the most out of the daylight. Open your blinds, declutter windowsills, let the light in. Switch off the lights when not in use. Meeting rooms, storage cupboards, toilets often leave, often lights are left there unnecessarily. So that's a good, good way of tackling that. Label light switches clearly so you can, so everybody that visits your building and your employees know which switches work for which areas. With the heating, simple tips: before you turn the heating on, obviously make sure that all the windows are closed. We don't want to let the heat out for no reason. Avoid using supplementary heaters. These are one of the most expensive heat sources. If anybody is hiding electric heating under the desk in the winter, maybe time to have a word and see if the heating can be, the main heating in the office can be used a little bit better as well. And find out how the heating system in your workplace work. Make sure you're taking full advantage of inbuilt energy efficiency functions as well. Ensure that the heaters and radiators are kept clear, they're not obstructed by the furniture, so the heat can travel through the room, and this will enable them to heat up your workspace more efficiently. And then turn off the heating in unoccupied areas, so meetings rooms, storage areas, these kind of things. Also, I think the most important thing, staying in control. So make the most out of the controls that you've got already for heating and lighting. Read the instructions, make sure that there is a designated person that knows how to operate the heating controls, and maybe is in control of setting up the timer, that not everybody has access to those controls. The graph here is just showing how we can use the controls to preheat the office maybe an hour or two before everybody arrives. And then we would encourage you to consider switching the heating off an hour or two before end of the working day to allow the temperature to go down slowly, and but you still are within, so if within, let's say that we switch off the heating about 3 o'clock, and then the temperature goes down slowly, it means that your heating doesn't need to work as hard as it would if you heating the space for when people are not there as well. And you could consider reducing your office temperature settings by 1 degree. It's unlikely that people will notice, but you can save as much as 10% on your energy bill there. And use the timers and temperature control sensors. So we can consider optimize the sensor fitted externally to your office building that can set heating controls to warm up the office before the staff arrive and shut off heating controls once the building is at the optimum temperatures, by helps you avoid overheating as well. And then we would move to, once this sort of no cost measures are addressed, we would move into low cost measures, and that would be reviewed. If you contact us, we would review that with you as well. So quite low cost measures you could install if you've got wet radiator systems. You could fit reflector panels behind your radiators. So it's like a silver foil that goes behind the radiator, reflects the heat back into the room. Service your heating system wherever you might have regularly. That will help to ensure that it runs more efficiently and it's in good shape. For the wherever you've got large variations in temperature across the workspace, the TRVs on the controls on the radiators can be used to quickly restrict the heating being delivered to the warmer areas of the building whenever necessary. So if you've got a heater in the radiator in the corridor, for example, that can be set to a lower temperature. Same in the meeting rooms, a bit lower, and then in the main office you can have radiators set to deliver a bit higher temperatures as well. Also, one of the omitted, quite often omitted measure is to insulate. We think about insulating the roof and the walls, but the pipe work for your hot water system is also very, very important. So that's quite low cost measure you can take. And consider smart controls and looking at this zoning your heating system if it's for a larger site as well. We've got some low cost measures for the lighting. So if you don't already have it, the motion controls can reduce your lighting costs quite significantly. They work well with lows of occupancy areas like storage cupboards, toilets and bathrooms, corridors sometimes as well. For very well lit areas or offices with skylights or very big windows, you could consider daylight sensors, which will switch off the lights during the very sunny days as well. Zone controls again, and switching your lighting completely to LEDs. And these, as LEDs progress, the technology progressed quite quickly, so those projects payback has reduced as well. And majority of the small LED installations would pay back within 5 years as well. Look at reducing air leaks, so your draft proofing, windows, doors. You could consider spring-loaded door closers for the external doors to make sure that people don't leave them open if you've got high traffic areas, or air curtains, so device blowing the hot air down by the front door as well. And that sort of limits the air coming, hot air escaping from the building. Insulating a loft, or look at maybe automatic fast closing door rollers or automatic doors for the outdoor, for the front door as well. And look at our equipment, make sure that you buy as efficient as possible. Put whatever you can on timers, and look at the possibility of replacing broken fridge seals. Natural ventilation for server room as well could be considered instead of air conditioning. And obviously there's an array of measures you could consider, which require bigger investment. So we're always encouraging to look at the building fabric in the first instance. Insulate as much as you can. Make sure they're using losing as little heat as possible. So we would review your building and consider roof, walls, floor insulation as well, replacing single glazed windows with double, looking at the putting in insulating doors as well. Only when you insulate as much as possible, we would advise to look at low carbon heat options, so your heat pumps, air source, ground source, water source heat pumps, maybe biomass boilers, and solar thermal as well. And then moving on, we would consider solar PV or wind turbines or any other way you can provide power for your site, as well as self-generation. To help you in implementing those measures, Scottish Government is offering a SME loan and cashback scheme at the moment. So it's quite substantial funding, which is unsecured, maximum £100,000, and it's a mixture of a cashback grant and interest-free loan, and the interest-free loan is repayable within 8 years. So that's just a quick breakdown of funding options. The Scottish Government is offering cashback for energy efficiency measures, so the standard measures like your lighting, glazing, insulation, some IT equipment as well would qualify for 30% cashback up to £10,000, and the rest would be issued as interest-free loan. There's another part of grant which would cover renewable heat, so heat pumps, biomass, solar thermal, and that would qualify for 75% cashback up to £10,000. And there are also measures which qualify for interest-free loan only, and that would be listed in that third column there. It's a quick example of just showing why the air source heat pumps would make sense, obviously for building which is well insulated. We looked at a client, there's actually one of the community sports centres as well. So we reviewed the premises and recommended air source heat pump for them. The quote came in region of £15,000. They applied for SME loan, received full cashback amount for that installation. The interest-free loan part, which was £5,000, spread over 8 years, that's coming as £52 per month. The energy bill savings that we estimated at the moment, at that time, were over £300 per month. So after they pay back their loan arrangements, almost £300 savings a month as well. Mind you, that will be a bit less now because it's been a good few months, but still it does make sense. And show you quick couple of case studies. They're both social enterprises. So the Touring Trust, they went for air source heat pumps, insulation for the walls and LEDs, also low flow improvements within hot water system, and achieved annual saving over £10,000 and 17 tons of CO2. And the other one would be Ardroy Outdoor Centre, and they switched from electric to biomass and also received SME loan, and are quite happy to cash on the annual savings there. Just to make you aware as well that other than SME loan, we also signpost to other funds. This one being just an example, Social Enterprise Net Zero Transition Fund. We quite often signpost to CARES programme at Energy Saving Trust as well, and Foundation Scotland. So if SME loan and the cashback scheme is not applicable to you, or you're looking just for grant funding, we also will help you find suitable funding for you. And just to finish off, if you would be interested in Green Champions training, the sign up opens this week for a course that's going to be delivered at the end of June. And these are our contact details. And thank you very much. If any questions, I think at end of session will be the time to ask.
That's fantastic, Kasia. Thank you for that. Really, really valuable advice there. Lots of really practical tips and advice there. As I mentioned in the chat as well, this webinar is being recorded, so we'll upload this to our video channel later, so you can obviously view the slides there as well. Right, so I'll just hand over to our next speaker just now. And hopefully I'm going to pronounce this correctly. It's Kevin Bonarius from Garioch Sports Centre. Is that right?
Yeah, good effort. Bonarius, yep. Thank you. I'll just go ahead, guys. Thank you. Okay, so as you said, my name is Kevin Bonarius, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of Garioch Sports Centre. For those of you who don't know who we are based in rural Inverurie, Aberdeenshire. We're a community sports and leisure facility, an independent, self-funded, self-sufficient facility, providing for all ages and all abilities across our community. What we've done over the last kind of 6-7 years now is a number of projects which is linked to climate challenge funding through Keep Scotland Beautiful. So we had 2 projects we delivered. I thought the best way to present this is just to show some basic pictures of our facilities, because a picture pages 1,000 words. So projects have involved upgrading our entire building to LED lighting. That's every single space, every single room in the building. There was a period where we walked down corridors or into rooms and 2 or 3 light fittings wouldn't be working. We're a 26-year-old building now, so that totally transformed the visual appearance of our facility and gave it a new lease of life. We installed a second set of doors at our arrival reception. We used to have a single set of sliding doors. As you can imagine, every time they opened, every single bit of hot air or warmth that was delivered by our heating system was going outside. So we put in some draft doors, second set of doors to improve that as well. Other projects that we've worked on are upgrading our external lighting. So we've got an artificial 3G football pitch outside. So we changed our floodlights outside to LED for there also. We have partnered with a local renewable energy company in Motive UK, and we have a container with wind turbine and solar panels installed on site. This linked to a capital project and extension to our building that we delivered recently called our Community Wellness Hub. That container is plugged in to those facilities and basically operates that as a net zero zone for our building. We have got big net zero aspirations within the facility and doing all we can to get to that level if we can. You'll see a couple of vehicle photos of our minibuses. Within this project, we sourced capital funding that obviously allowed us to do a lot of building upgrades, but we also put within the funding application a job role, a full-time job role for somebody to deliver this. That person basically was employed by the centre and delivered every single aspect of the project, from engaging with customers, businesses, ensuring the capital projects were all delivered and all the upgrades went how they were supposed to, and that really kind of provided the success that we needed. So if anyone is looking to do a climate challenge from a project, I would recommend including a position within that funding application. One of the big successes we had was obviously with the vehicles. We engaged with local businesses, and a lot of them had their own vehicles, and we did driver efficiency training with an external partner. Many people thinking they were fantastic drivers and you can't show me how to drive, I know how to drive, etc., etc. One business saving thousands on their delivery drivers by changing the way they were driving. So a very worthwhile project. We have our own buses here that we use because we have our own kids clubs that we take them to and from school, and our staff went through that training as well. So you'll see in the bottom left corner the container on site. This has been really, really eye-catching and has raised a lot of questions. We're now in conversations about a possible second container with windmill coming on site, which is larger. This windmill will then connect to rechargeable car charging points. We've got one installed in a top car park already, but we've got a number of users who drive electric vehicles, so we're looking to have 3 or 4 on site that will be powered through these wind turbines and solar PV. Other facility changes that we've made, we now use a not for landfill waste disposal. So all our waste on site gets taken away and recycled before it goes to landfill. So that was another step we added to improve things. We've installed draft excluders on every single door throughout the building, especially our fire exits, which has made a big difference. Heat reflector plates behind all building radiators, which has made a big difference as well. Heating timings are set and they get changed 3 or 4 times a year, depending on what the time of the year is. Obviously, the heating needs to be on for longer periods during the winter, but in the summer we try and operate with very little time of heating being on. We've obviously done a lot of staff training in terms of lights being turned off when facilities aren't in use, turning off heating if it's warm outside, all little things like that makes a big difference as well. Print of documents, that's another thing we changed. We no longer print timetables, application forms or anything like that. Everything's done through the PC, so all our timetables are up at reception with QR code links to websites. So we no longer print to make savings with that as well. So that's cost saving for us and obviously better for the environment as well. And we're now working on a large solar PV project, which is going to see us install over 100 panels on our flat roof, with batteries being installed as well for those projects as well. So we've done loads of projects here, lots of great wins. But for me, the biggest win was upgrading to LED lighting, which transformed the visual appearance of our facility. We've made considerable savings at the very start of this project, which allowed us to reduce our prices for our memberships. So the benefits we took from saving on our energies, we pushed back to our community facility to allow our memberships to be cheaper, make our facilities more affordable, more accessible for our users as well. So that's probably the biggest win we've seen from the project we delivered. I won't over elaborate on that because I know I'm on a time period here, but any questions about what we've done at the Garioch Sports Centre over the last few years, please drop us a message or comment box. I think engaging, what I've not mentioned, is engaging with our kind of senior groups. We've got a large user groups of 60 plus, and sitting down and educating them on the changes they can make in their home life to improve their energy bills has been massive as well. So we're not only a facility for sports, exercise and recreation, we now see ourselves as an educational facility. We're trying to be that forefront community facility that's educating people on what they need to do to improve their energy efficiency and their carbon usage. Thanks for listening, guys.
That's great, thanks Kevin. A really impressive lineup of activities there, certainly. And I'll pass over straight away just to Martin Murray of Dunnet Bay Distilleries.
Great, thank you, Duncan. That was an excellent talk, and a lot of the overlaps you'll see with our business. My name is Martin Murray. I'm the co-founder of Dunnet Bay Distillers with my wife Claire. We're based right up on the north tip of Scotland, not too far from John O'Groats. We set up the business in 2014 so that I could exit oil and gas and transition to moving home, so we could raise our family in the village that Claire was brought up in and just along the road from the town that I was brought up in. We started off with fairly modest ambitions. We wanted to create 2 jobs, one for me, one for Claire, and pay the bills. We fast forward 8 years now and we have 16 staff. We've built a visitors experience, a shop, and we now export to over 20 countries. We've been awarded a number of awards for our innovation, for our products, and also for our business performance. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind and not exactly what we expected. Over my shoulder, there's some plans for the renovation of a 200-year-old mill. We're hoping to get planning permission this week, which will allow us to take a fairly knackered 200-year-old mill back to life and start our whisky production journey there. You'll be familiar with all the challenges that businesses are facing with electricity costs rising. This is particularly painful for us as our still here is a 50 kilowatt still, and that's what we use for all of our gin production and vodka production. We have put measures in the past, which I'll talk about, and I'll also talk about some of the work we've done recently and some of the future measures we're hoping to put in place for our business. Early doors, we straight away put on a 24 kilowatt solar PV system. We could see that our distillation really kicks off about Easter and runs all the way through to Christmas. So a significant part of our production year is when there's high solar gains for us. So we installed this 24 kilowatt system. I've just checked, and this month alone, we've generated 2 megawatt hours. So it's contributing significantly to the days that we're distilling, but also has a help for our business when we're not distilling. It covers all the other things. We've also done other things. That the building's well insulated. We've put in controllers for all our heating systems and now on timers, so they come on and they're tuned depending on the seasonality with the business. We've got the LED lights. All our lights are now LED, and our only company car used to be a plug-in hybrid. It's now a fully electric vehicle, and we have a charging point here. So that's the measures we've put in place, and that's been a big benefit. But now with the price of electricity going up, we've seen our bills go up by 50% this year alone. We're now looking at other measures that we can put into place. These costs are even more painful when things like bottles, cardboard and raw materials are rising month on month. So we're looking to find ways that we can reduce our need for electricity. So one of the measures that Kasia touched on was to measure, understand your baseline, understand how you use electricity. So we want to know hour by hour, day by day, and then throughout the month. Particularly pertinent when we come to days that we're distilling, not distilling, shop open, shop closed. Try to build that real knowledge on where our electricity is being used. And again, we assigned a person to do that. We appointed an environmental manager less than 2 years ago, and we specifically tasked Sarah with understanding how our business uses electricity and the easy measures we could put in place, and then some of the clever or more difficult measures that we could put in place. We then involved a wider team. We talked to them. They know that electricity is going up. They feel it at home. So we explained this has an impact on our business, and it gets them engaged, gets them thinking about ideas that they could bring to the business that maybe don't see or is relevant to their function. And one of these was looking at seasonality. So we do most of our production from May through till Christmas. And with that Christmas run, October to December, we're into a period of the year where there's less sunlight for the solar panels, and we're using more space heating. So our electricity use and bills are a lot expensive. And we also see that this year there's a forecasted price rise this October or that end of the year. So one of the measures we've put in place is to try and squeeze a quieter month. September is a slightly quieter month. Try and squeeze more production in September when we can use more of the solar gain, and also hopefully some of the lower pricing that we'll have on our electricity. And that will just help us manage kind of box clever a wee bit. And then other ideas that some of the team have come up with, we distill 3 times a week. And normally there's days between each distillation run, and what that means is the still heats up and then it cools down for a couple of days, heats up, cools down. By piggybacking production onto each other, so distilling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're able to make the most of having an already hot still. So it reduces our production time, reduces our energy requirements, and then saves our overall electricity cost per batch. The other way we were able to identify a change was looking at how we actually produce our products and doing more concentrated versions of new products. So for example, if we put in 3 kilograms of juniper berries in a batch, we can now put in 30 kilograms, and that will make us 10 batches in one go. So that means we're only using the heat for one batch versus using the heat for 10 batches. So we can use that to our advantage as well. And again, we could do that concentrates in the summer when we have more solar power to do that. Again, when we built up that knowledge of how our electricity consumption was going, we identified gaps where on the days that we weren't producing, we were exporting back to the grid. Overnight, we were using electricity when it was dark that we could have benefited from having batteries. So we've already started a project now to add more solar panels and batteries so that we can optimize our generation against our consumption. And again, that will be a big benefit to us. The other problem we have is that when we get solar power, it tends to be in the summer when we don't need space heating. And then when we don't have solar power, we're needing a lot more space heating. So we've identified a small hydro producer. We have a burn at the back of our site. We're now looking to use hydro through the winter to give us some electricity to offset some of the space heating. So again, that's another project that we're looking to implement. And then the other thing that our team talked about was it came from school hours, where schools have shorter weeks and half-day Friday. What we're talking about doing for January and February is running 4 days a week with longer hours, and then not being opening on the Friday for production. And what that would mean would be we'd have a full day where we don't have that heat up, cool down phase in our business. So again, that will work with our production because we are slightly quieter then, and hopefully reduce our electricity needs. And then the other part is, we're feeling the pain for the electricity side of things. We've started to look at other ways that we can cut back, that we can then use to invest in these technologies. So a kind of wider project, not specifically related to electricity, but something that can help us invest in other technology. That's a short, brief insight into how we implemented projects in the past and how we're dealing with some of the costs that we're facing now and in future. I'll be glad to take questions at the end. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Martin. Brilliant. And I'll just now hand over to Dianne Fyfe of Waverley Care. Thanks.
Just come off mute. So basically, I work as the head office manager for a charity in Edinburgh called Waverley Care, and we were the first AIDS hospice in the UK back in the early 90s. And as AIDS is like no longer what it was back then, and we now deal with bloodborne viruses. So we have a residential facility and we have another 3 offices that we run. The residential facility is Milestone, where there used to be the hospice, and it was the original gas and electric, everything was original from, I think it was 89, the building work started. The boilers were failing constantly, so we did a massive review last year to renew all the equipment that was in there, and realised with it being such a big task, we employed the help of some engineers to ensure that we got it right. So we've just completed that work. It was an expensive project. We managed to source funding from HSBC for £50,000. So I think that's a big part. If you're ever considering doing anything of this, you look around and see what's the funding available, not only from government, but from private sector as well, that might be able to assist with it, who are pro green energy. But basically, we had 4 boilers and 2 water tanks in Waverley Care. The water tanks were old water tanks that ran a high risk of Legionella compared to the modern ones. So following the work, we reduced it down to 1 cold water storage tank with a pressure pump installed, and the boilers, we now have 2 boilers which work more efficiently. The hot water cylinders were reduced from 2 to 1. So our savings overall, the boiler replacement has given us a saving of 15% in our energy. Now, the cost for that, we don't know, because obviously the energy costs are rising considerably. The hot water cylinder replacements is estimated it's going to give us a 26% saving on what we used before. And the bungalows, as we call them, we've got 4 wings with 5 bedrooms that are heated by domestic boilers, and all the water installations were replaced and then with water pressure pumps put in as well. And that's estimated at 23% saving annually. So the other thing we did, once all the work was in place, I've only worked with Waverley Care for a year and a half, and they're a great organisation for it. Historically it works and nobody wants to change anything, and that's one of the hardest things I think I've faced, is pushback from people that have been in the job since the building was put up. But I went up with the engineers and the heating engineers, the actual mechanical engineers and the control panel engineer, and we reset all the heating and hot water timers. They had them on 24/7. So we've now got it that they're reduced down, and if it falls below a certain rate, it will kick back in, and they've estimated that that's going to give us another something like 30% saving from the amount that we've cut off. So I think that's really important to look at as well when you're thinking about renewing, is what systems have you got in place and are they working efficiently for you, and maybe get some professional help and to advise on it. Now, the other thing I did, which was really interesting, is I looked at our contracts for energy and compared them with our bills and noticed they didn't really match up. So I spoke to another company, it was actually an IT company, who are very, very helpful. I spoke to them and said, do they do utilities, if they get any advice? And they passed me on to an energy expert that they had used. We've now got a claim of £100,452 in against our energy supplier for hidden uplifts that are genuine, that have been identified. We've put the case together and it's just about to go to court. So I think that's another huge thing you've got to look at, is that you could be getting overcharged and not know it. It was certainly worthwhile. It didn't cost me anything to do it. What it will cost me is, out of that 100,000, I have to pay 15,000 to the lawyers for taking it to court, but that's fine because we're still going to be 85,000 better off. So there's a lot of that going on out there that people don't realise. The other thing we're looking at was the solar panels. So they put me on to the actual energy supply. So we're looking at solar panels and how to restructure how we purchase our energy. And they passed me on to a company called Panaserve. And what they do is they buy in bulk. So like they explain it, they have really intelligent software that predicts market prices for energy, and they buy bulk packages of it and split it up amongst the companies that they work with. So it means that you're guaranteed your energy is going to be that price. So this year they went in Boxing Day because the energy price was going to be at its lowest for the next 3 months, and bought the energy in advance. So we're all facing this massive hike because of Ukraine, but we're not going to be facing that for 3 months anyway. So it's a really clever way. It doesn't work for all businesses, but the amount of energy that we use, it certainly does work, and we're now got a considerable saving in place with that. And that company had also helped me source funding for solar panels. We applied before to, I think it was Energy Scotland, and we didn't get the funding. The funding had run out before our application even got through. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these pots of funding, is that there's not a lot of it, and you have to be quick off the mark to get the funding, and it's quite an intricate process for the application. So that's I'm actually got a meeting this afternoon for that, to get advice on where we can source funding for that. We've got massive roof space at Milestone, exposed with great sunshine, so it could work really well, but to actually install it ourselves was costing us an arm and a leg, and we couldn't afford it. So yeah, there's massive work has taken place, and it's brought us kind of into the 21st century, but we're not there yet. And a lot of the stuff that Kevin was talking about is stuff that really interests me for looking at to do to Milestone. So yeah, it's like taking us out the dark ages and gradually moving us forwards out of Dickensian times into some more modern times. But that's basically where we're at with our organisation. But our other offices, they're all rented, and we don't really have much input with them. So it's only Milestone that we own that we do the work with. Happy to answer questions at the end if anybody's got any. Thanks.
Excellent, thanks, Dianne. I think that's a really incredible mix of practical advice and practical action there. I think from all our speakers, it's really, really impressive, I think. We don't have any questions in the chat just now, but if you do have any questions, please do post them there. But I was kind of thinking to start with, maybe we can ask the question of, if you're a small business, small social enterprise or charity, you probably haven't considered your energy usage that much up until now, until the current cost of living crisis has happened. What kind of advice would you offer those kind of organizations who are kind of considering this for the first time, who might feel a bit intimidated by kind of all the different options they could choose? I don't know if Kasia, if you were okay to kick off with that.
Oh yeah, the first steps, a lot of the panelists were saying as well, make sure that you've got your annual energy use ready. The first step would be, I mean, we can encourage businesses and sort of especially small organizations get in touch with us to see how we can help, what advice we can offer. So first step with us as well would be to fill in, we usually send a service request form to a couple pages to find out a little bit more about the organization and which point of your journey you are, whether you're just starting or whether you've got any specific projects you would like to consider. And we will ask for annual set of energy bills, so your electricity and gas or oil or whatever else you might be using for heating. And that would be the first step, is always look out your energy bills and then approach us to kind of see if we can provide advice, and it might be in various ways. We can chat over the phone or submit a request for energy audit, either telephone or on-site visit, but just going to be depending on the project, what type of advice you get.
Excellent. Any of our other speakers want to pick up on that particular point? Don't feel obliged to, but yeah, there doesn't seem to be any questions in the chat at the moment. I mean, we could actually just wind up just there, to be honest. I think because this is a very practical advice-based webinar, it's a bit different, I think, to our usual kind of format. We've only got a couple of minutes left. If anybody does have any questions, please do post them in the chat. But I think, yeah, I think that's a really amazing kind of, yeah, as I said, a real amazing mix of different types of, you know, tips, advice, that kind of thing, practical action we can all take. So yeah, so if there's no other questions, anyone speakers want to make any other points at this stage at all? Yeah, again, don't feel.
I think I would just add that every business or every organisation is going to be different. So certain things will work for certain places and certain things won't. So just look at your organisation or business as a whole and see where you need to address your things. And that's a great starting point, where you think, well, maybe don't know how much we're using air, or that's on all the time. And just look at it as a whole, and maybe even get somebody from external to look at it as well. I'm conscious I've been at this business now for 16 years. So I constantly ask people externally to give me their feedback, because it's easy to have blinkers on at what you're doing because you're in the same place all the time. You don't see the things that you might be doing that need to be improved. So that's a couple of things I would probably suggest to look at as well.
Very good advice. Martin, would you like to maybe make a final comment?
No, I think it's actually been really interesting for me hearing the other stories and hearing the information from Kasia. So yeah, I kind of echo what Kevin says, is lean on people and get advice. It's not easy. Sometimes you can be trying to do the day job too much and not have the time to do it, and that's kind of one of the barriers that Kasia said. So yeah, if you can get that support and lean on people, definitely worth doing.
Excellent. Dianne, do you have any final points to make? Maybe?
Just totally agree. You know, I think one of the big things is speak to other organisations, speak to other people, speak to friends that are in business and ask them, you know, what have they encountered. I mean, like, I contacted our IT company about the utilities advice, and we're sitting with this claim that I wouldn't have known about otherwise, other than just having a suspicion that we were being overcharged. I wouldn't have a clue where to start, how to find that out, and I didn't even know there were experts out there to look at that. So that's been a real eye-opener to me, that we're I think that's the best advice, is like, speak to other people, get advice. And the other thing I would say that was key to having that major work carried out at Milestone was employing the engineer. It was an expense. I think it was an extra £1,500 to have the engineers to oversee it, but it paid dividends, because we've got everything that's super efficient and most energy efficient that we can have for that facility at the moment. So yeah, speak to other people.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, we can wrap up just there. But again, if anybody who's here today has got any follow-up questions, please just email me. You'll have my details on the email, and I can pass on questions to Kasia or any of the other speakers if that's okay. And as I mentioned, the webinar is being recorded, so it will be posted onto our Vimeo channel this week, hopefully at the end of this week. So you can see all the slides there and all the information as well. So hopefully that's been really useful. Again, as I said, a really practical webinar today. Some of our webinars are very policy-based, for example, but this is a really practical one. Again, a big issue, a really big issue affecting everybody across Scotland. So Many thanks to our speakers for today. Really appreciate your time, and do keep in touch, and everybody have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, bye.
Later.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, cheers.